This is the government's controversial plan to gather information on Australia's web surfing. Can't see all that much? That's because these documents were obtained by Fairfax under the restrictions of the Freedom of Information laws that allow the government to decide what is deemed in the public interest. And apparently, not a whole lot of this is in the public interest to see. The documents you are looking at contain information from a briefing to the telco industry in March of this year about a government's plan to require internet service providers to store certain internet activities of all Australians.
We only found out about this proposal, if you could call it that, by accident, because some of the internet service providers they were liaising with were very uncomfortable with the proposition as it was put. And now, as a result of this Freedom of Information request, we've got 8 or 9 pages that have been heavily hit with a black pen, and I think the public really is none the wiser. The government just needs to come clean and tell the Australian public what it is that they intend to do.
The blacking out was done by the Attorney General's Department Legal Office.
Well, it's very worrying. It's clear that the government are pushing as hard as they can to get as much data as they can, and they want industry agreement. The document that we got under FOI is so censored that basically all that's left is the page numbers. Now, the government might spin the argument, look, if you've got nothing to hide, if you're not a criminal, you shouldn't worry that this data is being retained. But I would turn the same question back on the Attorney General. If they've got nothing to hide in these negotiations that they're trying to conduct with industry, then why can't the Australian public have a little bit of insight into what's going on?
In a return email to Fairfax, it was said that the massive amount of exemptions were put forward because they would result in adverse consequences and could cause confusion and premature and unnecessary debate.
The letter that was received back from the department, which seeks to discourage premature and unnecessary debate, I think really treats the public and the media with absolute contempt. It's really not acceptable for the government to be trying to head off legitimate, informed debate by heavily blacking out and censoring the kind of documents that they'll release on this proposal. We're not interested in premature and unnecessary debate. I think this is a legitimate debate, and it's time that was had with the public having full knowledge of the facts.
This data retention plan has already brought strong criticism from privacy groups.
The fact that this is so secretive means that we have no choice but to assume the worst, that the government is on a fishing expedition, badgering the telcos to get as much information as they can, without wanting to make the case to the Australian people why they should have that right. And that's just not how we do things in this country.
In this case, spying on our web activities is apparently none of our business.